A few changes with my M56 Sport. Look at this side and look at this side. Look at this side again. And then let's look at the left again. Can you guys tell what's different? I'll tell you. The wheels on this side are a little more sunken in compared to those on the left side, which are more or less flush to the body lines. So this, on the right side, is how the wheels look like from the factory. They're a little sunken in. Look at the rear ones. The front ones are as well, but to a lesser extent than the rear ones. And then what I did is that on the left side, I got some wheel spacers just to see how they'd look. 15 millimeters in front, 25 millimeters in the back. And for the most part, they look good. This one pokes out a little more than I'd like, but you know, it's something we can work with, you know. This one here though, nice and flush. Yeah. So, and the reason I did that is that I'm still working on this project that I've got going on, which is, I'll tell you, basically custom wheels for the vehicle. I like the flush-ish look, and without having to lower the vehicle at all. Some people like the vehicles lower. But you have to do it carefully because you got to make sure that the wheels don't poke out and make the tires look like a truck. And again, some people like that look. Some people like the extra overhang, but for practical reasons and visual reasons, I like them to be more or less flush. So why wouldn't they come like this from the factory? Well, manufacturers usually have to make a few compromises whenever they design, vehicles. One, they use platforms that already exist, so that might limit what they can do with wheels and suspension and things like that. Two, they have to make sure, depending on the class of vehicle and whatever research they've done, that everything needs to work all right. So a manufacturer is not going to give you wheel spacers for your car. That they're not going to do that. And plus, they've calculated the way it should be. They know how far out they wanted it to stick. Because if it was all about putting a 25 millimeter spacer, they would have done that from the factory. But, design considerations, they knew how they wanted the car to handle. They made them like that, right? Then the other thing is that the way their cars that come with wider wheels, but for whatever reason, Infiniti, for most of the Infiniti line, actually, I don't think even Q50s, I can't remember if the Red Sport even comes with wider rear wheels. I can't remember. But some manufacturers stagger wheels. Infiniti doesn't quite do it. The Nissan 370Z has wider rear wheels, but these guys, for the most part, they keep the same wheel spec on all four corners, and that's good because when it comes time to rotate your tires, you can move any wheel to any corner you need to, right? And then the other thing with wider rear wheels is that you could get wider rear wheels, but your rotation's only limited from left to right. And if you made the mistake of getting directional tires that only have to be mounted either on the right side or on the left side, that means you can pretty much never rotate your tires at all. Can't even do the front back because, again, the wider wheels are going to poke out a little too much. And again, as I said, compromises need to be made. This setup as it is, if you were to hit a bump, the wheel and tire is going to sink into the suspension cavity without damaging your fender. Same thing in the back. Not only for damage, but for worn suspension and things like that, the tire and wheel needs to be able to go in without damaging your body lines, your rear quarter panel. So it's just something to talk about. I have noticed that, as I said, as much as I like it flush, this one here pokes out a little more than I'd like, and I'm going to make corrections. And when you look at it, you can see that right around that point, you see quite a lot of tire poking out. And it won't be a concern, but the way the vehicle is designed, it's got curves like this. And these are things that the manufacturer decides because of how streamlined and aerodynamic they want the vehicle to be. It has to look like that. They didn't want to make a car with such a wide chin, but they do have that bumper that's usually a little wider. So things to look at or to consider whenever you do this. But it's not as bad as you might think, because the factory setup still has that little bit of poke right around halfway. Yep, just a little more than halfway into the wheel. It does poke out a little bit, right? And then the other thing they usually think about is how much tire, how much... Although you might want to make visual changes, believe it or not, they have already made their examinations, and they you know, the wheel looks good. This wheel in itself is a pretty good design, and it works well with almost every other vehicle that you throw the wheel onto. You know, I've got those videos on my channel going on, so yeah. Just a quick video. I wanted to show you guys what the vehicle would look like with those wheels with spacers and how you can get them to look flush. But my end goal, because I've preached about this, I always mention this, that I don't like spacers not as a permanent solution, is that I'm using those specs, those dimensions, and what I'm going to do with it is eventually I'm going to get my own custom wheels made to the visual specifications that I like, and that physically they're still going to be practical. Okay? Hope that makes sense.